Hello Zimbabwe. Welcome to another episode of Straight Talk. My name is Metallica and today we're joined in the studio by the author of the book Digital Labor Markets and Jobs of the Future, Mr. Frederick Mandizvidza. Mr. Mandizvidza, welcome and how are you?
Thank you for having me, Meta. I'm all right.
All right. Let me just get straight into the questioning. What is digital labor markets and jobs of the 21st century in the future? What exactly are you talking about?
Meta, let me start by giving you the background to this book. The world at the moment is facing a massive transformation driven by the Internet of Things and the fourth industrial revolution. That means the entire globe is being pushed towards digital transformation, and industry is without exception. What it means is that the human resources practice should also reconsider its approach to digital human resources, recruitment, development, deployment, training, and also retention, as well as rewarding. So this book actually gives us an opportunity to start a conversation around the import of digital labor markets across the globe, as well as prompting us in the third world, and particularly in Africa, to start thinking about creating the jobs that matter within the 21st century. And this is a responsibility that lies squarely on the shoulders of human resources practitioners in the 21st century.
I see. Can you maybe elaborate on the insights and foresights of the disruptive power of emerging technologies? What exactly are you on about?
Meta, the reality of the fourth industrial revolution is that it ushers in a completely new setup in terms of the types of emerging technologies that we see operating today. Let me indicate that within the context of the fourth industrial revolution, we are experiencing a situation where emerging technologies are converging together, and that convergence brings about the ability to have the digital life, physical life, and the biological life coming together, forming what is called the cyber-physical space. And within the context of the cyber-physical space, you then have the ability to have gadgets which are connected to the internet, being able to connect to each other, forming what is called machine-to-machine communication. What that means is that everything is getting more and more connected to the internet, including our own lives. They are also being connected to the Internet of Things. Having said that, it becomes imperative then to understand that the industries of the future are also going to be driven by that capability of machine-to-machine communication. So it's then important for everyone who practices as a human resources official to understand how that happens, and then to say how best can we then attract human resources that can drive our companies of the future based on the skill in the digital era.
Right. Okay, and then what are some of the dangers and opportunities emerging in the human resources practices now? And what if people then, the HR practitioners, if they don't then engage into what you are saying in this digital labor markets? Maybe you could first break it down for us to say people are facing such and such a challenge, and then maybe we could go to how you have eradicated the challenges in the future, how you think maybe they could be assisted if people were to use the book.
Thank you, Meta. The greatest challenge that we have is of companies that are stuck in the past. And being stuck in the past means that the human resources practices, the policies, the regulations, the laws, and the approaches to issues, for example, talent identification, recruitment, and rewarding systems are all stuck in the past, meaning that our companies are not in a position to move into the new situation, new circumstance, where they should be able now to compete even with companies that are already dealing within the context of the fourth industrial revolution. So it's critical for every human resource practitioner to try and catch up or understand the dynamics of the current economic situation and say, how best can we then identify the talent, recruit it, and be able to make use of it through deployment to create the competencies which are required for a company to be a major player in a digital economy. Now, having said that, it then becomes apparent to say companies that do not have human resource practitioners that are digitally minded will continue to remain stuck in the past, and clearly these are the good candidates for extinction. So our thrust through this book is to say, let's ignite the interest in digital labor skills and in understanding the importance of emerging technologies as they disrupt every aspect of industrial and economic setting, to then move over so that our companies in the third world countries can also find a place where they can compete in the digital economy. Let me also highlight the fact that the failure to move over to the digital mindset means that it becomes difficult for companies to redefine the concept of work, which must be redefined, to reinvent also the concept of job and the concept of work, because these are changing as disruptive technologies take their toll on the industry. What it therefore means is that failure to change in that context is clearly setting the companies for failure. They cannot compete with those that are already defining the landscape of markets on the basis of new technologies and new skills based on digital emerging technologies. So it's important for everyone within the context of any industrial setting to focus on the new skills that are required to drive companies of the 21st century.
I see. All right, Mr. Mandizvidza, I get what you're trying to say and where exactly you're coming from. But have you also considered, maybe for example in Zimbabwe, right here in Zimbabwe, we could talk of the human resources laws that used by maybe the labor courts. Have you also highlighted all those things in your book? Have you considered, if your book tells me to do A, will it not contradict when I go to the labor courts and maybe I'm told I should be doing B? Have you put into context everything surrounding human resources in Zimbabwe?
Thank you very much, Meta. That's a very important question. It's true that the labor laws have not yet changed, and probably might take quite some time before they change. But the matter of the fact is that they will certainly change, and they must certainly change, because there are lots of things that are coming up which then transform, including issues of the industrial relations on the shop floor. Things are changing because the way in which the human resources are being engaged are now being defined more by the digital factor than the physical aspect of a work environment. I will advise you that in the book I have dedicated about ossification of legal boundaries which are actually falling away, because you understand that within the gig economy, someone can actually be employed in the United States of America whilst they are here in Zimbabwe. They physically live in this country, but they are signed to a contract by a company which is in Israel, which is in Japan, or which is in the United States of America. And the greatest question is, what laws then affect or governs that kind of a contract? And clearly there is need then to revisit the labor laws and industrial relations to say, how best can that new landscape be redefined to suit the needs of the times? Another issue is that, for example, of child labor, which has been, which is actually a key issue today. You will discover that you've got a young person who is probably 8 to 10 years, who is a genius in the digital space and can come up with digital solutions to the corporate companies of today. Now, that young person can actually be employed by a company which is probably in a different jurisdiction. So issues of child labor also kick in. How best can then, for example, entities like the International Labour Organization come in to redefine issues around the labor laws affecting child labor? Another issue is also the changing aspect of what we call ergonomics. These are labor or work environments. Work environments within an analog setting as compared to a digital setting are differing. They are actually different in the sense that within the digital setting, the environment now requires somebody to concentrate more on his laptop or on his computer as compared to the physical exercise of their ability. So the issues around decent jobs that are created for this particular individual have to be redefined. And this was not there in the past. So there are lots of things that need to be changed, starting from the laws that govern contracts and the industrial relations that also affect the individual on the ground.
Mr. Mandizvidza, can your book be used by somebody doing human resources studies? If so, at which level? The diploma, the degree, the master's? Can it be used?
Meta, if you look at the book, you will discover that it was, its foreword was given by Professor David J. Simbi, who is the Vice Chancellor of Chinhoyi University of Technology. In that foreword, having gone through the book, he concluded that this book is a textbook which can be used for university education, especially from undergrad, for those that are undergoing the human resources degree programs, which means it's suitable teaching material for diploma level and also for university degrees.
All right, maybe for those that need to see what the book looks like, yes, he has just confirmed it's a textbook. This is Mr. Frederick Mandizvidza's book entitled Digital Labor Market and Jobs of the Future. If you want the book, how does one get the book, Mr. Mandizvidza?
Thank you. They can get hold of me on 0772 728 775, or they can email me on fred@iel4.com.
All right. Maybe he might want to repeat that again. Maybe you could tell us your phone number again and your email address, just in case somebody missed just a small little detail of what you have just said. Maybe you could repeat the number and your email address as well.
0772 728 775. My email address, fred@iel4.com.
I hope everybody has gotten that info. You need to get a hold of Mr. Mandizvidza if you're doing human resources the money-making market? Why?
Meta, like I indicated earlier on, the world is moving very fast. And our countries are defined by the ability of their industries to generate and contribute to the global markets in terms of exports. And that is a function of the human resources, given the role that human resources play in driving the capacity and capability of our companies. And it is because of that that I decided to say, let me put together a book that highlights these issues so that our human resources practitioners can then better focus on creating the digital skills which are required for every company to move over into the digital space or into the digital economy. It's precisely because of my interest in making sure that companies are capacitated and that they play a major and critical role in driving the economy of the future. And this applies to every country which is in the third world, and most specifically countries in Africa. We need really to capacitate our human resources practitioners so that they in turn can influence the decisions that are made by the CEOs, who are the real decision makers on the ground. So this book becomes then a critical toolkit for transforming our companies into the 21st century or into the digital economy.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mandizvidza. I've personally learned a lot, and I believe everyone else out there, especially those that are involved in the human resources industry, you guys also have learned something. Remember, this is the book, Digital Labor Markets and Jobs of the Future for 21st century HR practitioners. So if you're aspiring to be a human resources practitioner, this is the right book for you. Mr. Frederick Mandizvidza has made it easier for the future. If you want to get hold of him, he has given us his details, he has given us his email address, so just make sure you look for him so you can get your own copy. Mr. Mandizvidza, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for teaching us and for gracing this show.
You're most welcome, mate.
Thank you. My name is Metallica. Remember, you heard it first on TechMac TV.